Well, I finally did it. The unthinkable. I watched Bloodshot. Hello and welcome back to the Unskripted podcast. Today we're talking about Bloodshot, a movie that came out back in March. And this is a movie that every time I saw it somewhere, just like a poster or a trailer scrolling through YouTube, or even after it came out, as I was scrolling through like DirecTV Cinema, it was just a movie that every time I saw it, I would have the gut reaction of just, oh yeah, that's a thing. And I'm not positive I saw any trailers for this before I watched the movie, but I just didn't go into it with that high of expectations. Obviously, I wasn't expecting the worst film I've ever seen, just a pretty generic, boring film, and how was I wrong? I was blown away by this movie. Before I go any further, there are some minor spoilers, and by minor, uh, I thought I was going to be major, but then I realized the trailer kind of ruined some of that. So if you've seen a trailer, probably not that big of a deal. But if you haven't seen a trailer and you want to go to this movie blind, I highly recommend it. That's what I did, and it was a great experience. But anyway, there are going to be some spoilers for Bloodshot. But without further ado, let's begin. Ray Garrison is a soldier who was killed by a madman, but then Ray is brought back to life by a billionaire with a hit list. When Ray discovers he's being used to kill people, he rebels against his creator and becomes a superhero. It sounds like a pretty generic plot, but it was so interesting watching this unfold on the screen. I thought at first, the first maybe 10 minutes before the title card, I was a bit bored and it wasn't quite a perfect movie yet. I don't know if it's still setting it up, obviously, and it was still doing things. But during that time, I remember thinking, like, okay, this is exactly what I thought this movie was going to be: boring, unintriguing, uninspired. And then the title card kind of comes, and they start really explaining what's happening. And that was the first time in the movie where I started to, like, because at first I'm confused. I don't really understand why anything's happening. I remember pausing the movie at one point, just being like, okay, why, when, who, how, where? Like, none of this, I don't know any information of what's happening right now in this scene. And then the movie starts to actually explain all your questions, and there was that moment where Guy Pearce's character is taking Ray Garrison, like, to the tour of the facility for the first time. And it just kind of clicked for me that, like, okay, I understand everything that's kind of happening in the movie right now. Or at least everything the movie wanted me to understand. But overall, like, it keeps your interest for, I would say, most of the movie. There are some fight scenes that just drag on too long. In particular, the elevator scene towards the end, just, it's a boring fight scene. You can't really tell what's happening, and I don't appreciate that fight scene. But a lot of the other scenes are great. The action is really good. And you gotta give credit where credit is due to everyone who worked on this movie. The writers did a pretty good job. As I mentioned, there's a plot twist. I don't know if I'm... There's a plot twist. It's a kind of obvious. Just they kind of straight up say it before they actually reveal it. Even if they didn't, it's still something you can kind of catch on to if you're paying close enough attention. But when the actual twist does happen, it still kind of blew me away, even though I knew it was coming, just because I didn't know to what extent it was coming, and also it's still, the story made you care about this twist. And that's something a lot of movies can't say. If you look back to a movie like Men in Black International, I don't hate that movie, but I knew the plot twist before the first 4 minutes of that movie were done, and when they actually revealed the twist, it was the least thing. I didn't care at all. It just had no weight on the story whatsoever. But yeah, all the acting is great. I specifically want to call out Vin Diesel, obviously the lead, for just being an amazing Bloodshot. I'm not super uh, well read, well versed on the Bloodshot comics, but Vin Diesel really sold me on this character. And Eliza Gonzalez, I think is her name. I don't remember. She also is great in this movie. Guy Pearce obviously is kind of reprising his role from Iron Man 3 a little bit. He's playing, supposed to look good, but then ends up being an evil billionaire. And it kind of gives me some Mandarin vibes or some Ulrich Killian vibes. But just overall, I thought he did a great job in this role as well. And just everything about this movie I adore. I want to talk about one fight scene in particular, because just everything about that scene was great, and it is the one in the tunnel with all the smoke, and Bloodshot's going to kill the guy who killed his wife the first time, and just that scene is stunning on so many levels. Obviously, I want to call it the cinematography. Just the cinematographer did a great job framing this fight so you don't quite know what's happening, but you know everything you need to know, and you're visually engaged, and you're just involved in this fight scene. This is one of the greatest fights in at least recent movie history, in my opinion. This is one of the greatest action scenes in the recent movie history, because it's so perfect in just the use of color and the use of smoke to kind of keep not just the enemies but also the viewer just a little bit unaware of what's happening. It adds a little bit of suspense to the scene. It adds a lot of drama, and I personally love this scene with almost all of my heart. So, with that being said, obviously, I think this movie has its downfalls. It's not a particularly comedic movie, which I'm not that's not my problem with this movie. Obviously, not every movie has to be a comedy, and I think that this more of a serious superhero movie really works in Bloodshot's favor. But I do think when they do try throwing a joke in there, it doesn't necessarily always land, and I think they probably should have gone almost all the way with the seriousness of this movie, with the exception of one character, Wilfred Wiggins, played by Lamorne Morris, who actually plays Winston in New Girl, a show I was watching at the same time as I saw this movie, and just not only could I not quite tell if that was the actor Lamorne Morris until the credits rolled, but he brings such an energy to his part, and you can tell his character is not supposed to be serious and he's supposed to be more lighthearted, and his character is a joy to watch every time he's on screen. And I loved his character in this movie a lot, but he was the only one who really was able to pull off humor. But other than that, there's a couple fight scenes that just felt dragged on. As I said, the elevator fight scene it's hard to tell just what's happening at any given moment, and you don't really care about the two villains who he's chasing. Obviously, the one with the metal arm thing, you care about more, but the other guy, you never learn anything about him, and you just don't care. And also, again, how they handled the plot twist. If they wouldn't have put that in trailers, or they would have written it in a way where you might be able to pick up on it, but still they don't come out and tell you 3 times before they actually reveal it, that could have been a really cool plot twist. But instead it was not an awful twist, but it wasn't great either. So, I guess that takes us to review Podium, where our 3 categories this week are cinematography, plot twist, and entertainment. So, for cinematography, which for those of you who don't know is like the visuals and the color and framing and composition of a shot, um, which are all very important aspects of a film. Um, for the cinematography, this movie blew me away. I think what really sold me on this movie was some of the cinematography of these shots, especially if you look back to like the one where the man who kills Ray Garrison like is dancing down the cellar. Like that's such a great shot, and although it's a bit cliche, they later address that it's cliche, and that's part of like part of the whole plot. I thought it was really just that shot alone, after you take out any story elements from it, is a beautiful shot. And I mean, again, I talk about the tunnel fight scene where it kills that man. Um, you talk about some of the pool scene is a great shot, and just it blew me away with its beautiful visuals and stunning fight scenes. The director of photography, Jacques Geoffrey. Um, I don't know if exactly that's how you pronounce his name. He deserves a lot more credit than he'll probably ever receive. This is definitely a highlight of the movie, and probably the reason I love it so much. So for cinematography, I give this movie a 5 out of 5. Our second category is plot twist. Although the plot twist may have been pretty obvious from early on, the weight of it still hits when the twist happens. As I said earlier, it isn't as bad as a twist from Men in Black International, but also it's no Sixth Sense either. So I give 3 out of 5 for plot twist. And our third category, entertainment. As always, while I love this movie, it definitely dragged on a bit at times and was not entirely engaging all the way through. Although overall I would recommend this to anyone who hasn't seen it. It is not without its flaws. Entertainment was a hard one to grade, in my opinion, just because I was in such shock throughout the runtime and after I'd finished the movie on just how high the quality of this film was. Because, again, as I said, going into it, I was pretty skeptical. I was kind of looking for a bad movie, and I had no intentions on reviewing it. I just wanted to watch a bad or a mediocre movie, and it kind of blew me away with how good it was. But I think looking back, I was definitely bored at times, and I wanted to skip parts, and just I think overall I probably feel like entertainment should get a 3 out of 5. But I still highly recommend this movie for anyone who hasn't seen it. It is the highest ranking movie that we've watched on this show now, and I'm really, I don't want to say it's the best film I've seen from this year, but it's gotta be up there. I mean, not a whole lot has come out, and not a whole lot has come out that I really, really loved, like I did Bloodshot. So I think if you've been on the fence about this movie, or just forgot this movie existed, I highly recommend you check it out. It is a fantastic time, and a new superhero. So I think that's kind of all I have to say. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. Anyways, thanks for watching. We have new content here every day. We have gaming videos every day at 11:30 Central Time, and unscripted podcasts and unscripted episodes on Thursdays at 1 o'clock Central Time. We also have free comics at Access Comics on Twitter and Instagram, and at Access Comics Official on DeviantArt. We write superhero stories. They come out once a month, and they're free, so you might as well go and check them out. But if you have any video games or movies or TV shows you'd like us to cover on this channel, whether it be play, review, or whatever, leave them down in the comments below, and we'll try and get to as many as we can. And also, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.